of the token engineering commons. Like that, there's like these different layers of the commons, and this is the economic layer. And so our focus here is really about helping to develop this economy with primarily a lot of what we're focused on is helping the commons to build out new services. We're kind of like an incubator in that sense. But we'll also do a bunch of other stuff. Nate's going to talk about and a little bit later today about the Treasury work that we're doing out of this working group too. And if anybody needs to turn down the music, you can always just right-click on that little orange and white circle, and there's like a little volume control there. It says user volume, so you can change the music volume. I'm going to, let's wait just a few more minutes before we get started. I wanted to change it up a little bit today. So let's see if we get, here's NT. Hey, NT, welcome. If you're speaking, can't hear you. I know that Irem is not going to be able to make it today. She had some issues with a family friend, and so just want to give her a shout out because I think she's going to be watching this later. So hope you're doing okay, Irem.
Thanks for the tip on the music. Now I can hear you.
Yeah, good. So welcome, Vlad. Yeah, the other thing I didn't mention is on mobile it's a little bit different, but you figured it out. Vlad, do you want to just give a little intro, like tell us about yourself, like who you are, how your interest in the TEC?
Well, actually, I'm brand new to Web3. Been looking into it for maybe 4 or 5 months at the most. I've fairly well adapted high concepts, high level concepts of what's coming. Simply because I'm an author, I've written near-term sci-fi where I've been looking at pre-singularity, futuristic trends, and what's coming with a bunch of things coming together. So I've looked at crypto and how it factors in that way. But as far as when you actually hand me the tools, I'm a caveman. I not know what to do with this. Former Series 7 holder, licensed broker in the U.S., let that all lapse. But so when you talk economic concepts with me, I'm not going to be a complete Neanderthal there. And honestly, I don't know what I really want to do out of this other than I'm here to learn a little bit. And I kind of think outside of the box more than just a little bit. So if there's something I can add to maybe help, give you a new way of looking at something that gives you guys that do have the tools to figure out how to make it work, a new way to look at something, I'll pipe up, say my piece, and then shut up. And you can do with it whatever you want.
Okay.
Other than that, I'll just sit back and try and learn. Because quite frankly, I don't know enough to know what I don't know right now.
We've all been there, and actually, for most of us, it wasn't that long ago. So, and most of us are still very much in the learning mode. So you're very welcome, and it's great to have you here.
Thanks.
So, Risha, welcome. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Actually, Vlad, we have a tradition here. Can you see my screen there where it says Sampo meetings? What we do is that we always have one person read the Sampo mission out loud. Would you do the honors for us today?
I can see it, but it is so small, there's no way I'll be able to read it.
Okay. Okay. Can Risha, can you read it okay?
Yeah, I can read it.
Okay. Do you want to read it for us?
Okay. Sampo develops the economic layer of the token engineering commons. The Sampo working group develops and grows the value of the economic layer of the token engineering commons. It aligns this microeconomy with the TEC mission and the collective success and individual benefit of its token holders.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. So today I wanted to take a little bit more time with something that's personal, but actually is directly related to some of the stuff that I'm thinking a lot about in terms of Sampo and overall TEC and the reasons why we're here individually, personally. I'm going to turn down the music just a little bit for myself. Okay, so the question is, tell us about an experience that was personally meaningful for you and helped form your understanding of who you are. Okay, let me just repeat that. Tell us about an experience in your life that was meaningful and helped form your understanding of who you are. And I'm going to kick this one off. I don't usually kick it off, but I want to kind of set the tone because I'd love it if you could kind of go a little bit deeper on this today. My story happened when I was like pretty much right out of school, and I was working in China in Beijing, and had been there for a couple years, and ended up getting reposted back to. I worked for a trade association that helped U.S. businesses in China, and I got after 2 years, I got pulled back to the States. I was in Washington D.C., and so I was working there, and I had a project that I was assigned to, which was working with Amoco, big petroleum company, and they were trying to set up some polypropylene plants in China. So I was like given this task of like doing a market research project in China, and I was like I think 22 or something like that, pretty young, and actually when I was over there doing some of the research, that's when the Tiananmen Square massacre happened. It was just like a couple weeks before that, so I was there for all of that stuff, and that's a whole nother story. Sometime if you give me a beer, I will tell you that story. But that's not this story. So this story was that I was, I'd come back from the whole Tiananmen thing and was trying to get this project wrangled, at age 22 or whatever I was, 23. And I was seriously in over my head. Like I'd never done anything like this before, and it was kind of crazy that I had been given this job. And there was a point where perfect mood shift in the music. There was a point where the thing was falling apart. The whole project was just falling apart. Like anyway, there were some data problems, and I just remember being so depressed. I went outside. This is in DC, and I sat down on a bench, and I was just like, what am I going to do? And it started raining. So then I'm just sitting there. I'm like, oh my God, like what next? And right at that moment, a pigeon pooped on my shoulder. And I just had to laugh. And for some reason, that poop was kind of a wake-up call, because it was like a little sign that the universe had a sense of humor. And like things were going to be okay. And in fact, actually, things were okay. I went back. It's not like that next day things magically turned around, but like things did turn around. The project was done. It worked out great. It was tough. It was hard work. But that little episode gave me a sense of belief in myself, like that I could overcome hardship. Something that was really difficult, that I had it within me to stick with it and overcome that. So that's my story. And because this is welcome, Crypto Zach. So because this is a little bit more in depth than maybe many of the questions. Hey, so Crypto Zach, I'll repeat the question It's tell us about an experience that was meaningful, particularly meaningful to you, and helped form your understanding of who you are. And so I just went pretty deep with mine. So rather than just pass it off to somebody, I'm just going to ask first if anybody is ready to go and would be willing to go next. And then after this, we'll just, I just want to give people time to just, but after this, you can pass it around.
Jump on the grenade.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
go ahead.
Go ahead. I'm on mute.
Anyway, mine was kind of a series of unlucky events that kind of got me where I'm at. I went in and decided to go into the banking sector right before a big downturn with the first Bush administration, and that kind of had a big hit there, and I bailed out of it, and the computer thing went kind of crazy right after. So I'm like, ooh, this is kind of nice. So I moved over to do computers. I started working in the computer field, selling and learning a little bit about the tech side in 1999. So I don't have to tell you what was right around the corner there. And I went, oh, wow. Okay, fine. Maybe, I should, see what I was, got out of that, moved, did a little more sales work. And then I decided, you know what? I really need to understand more about the stock markets and how they work. So I decided quit the sales gig I was at, making good money, and take a pay cut to actually go work for a brokerage firm because they were going to teach me what I needed to know about the markets. I became a licensed broker in August of 2007. Yeah, you got to see exactly how that went for me. And so I was sitting in late 2008, early 2009. I really can't tell you for sure which it was, but it was right after the Lehman Brothers fiasco. Speaking to a client, the reserve had crashed. The reserve was a money market fund that had been around, made it through the Great Depression, been around over 100 years. It depegged with 97 cents on the dollar. There was a bank run on it, and it was illiquid. I mean, it was invested in, huge things that it could never liquidate fast enough to get solvent, and so it collapsed. Everybody was probably going to get their money, but they weren't going to get their money soon. I had an 87-year-old man in New York City with $2 million, his entire life savings, which $2 million sounds like a lot of money to some folks. It's not if you're living in New York City and it's all you've got to live on. And you're 87, and I'm telling you it's going to be 2 years before you can get it back. I'm hearing a grown man crying on the phone, and I'm telling him that, yes, contractually they were obligated to give him his money within 24 hours of notice. Yes, we told him it was the safest bet he could get, short of a Treasury bill. Yes, everything we said to him was accurate at the time. And no, there was nothing I could do for him. He was just stuck without his money. I did not like being that guy. I did not like being in that position. I decided at that point, I'd been looking at, folding up, selling off everything, and bolting up out of the place long before that. But I came home, I told my wife, I said, by 2010, we're making the break. We're moving up to Minnesota where I want to go, out in way rural, just off the Canadian border, Minnesota. Or if I've got to live under a box, I'm going. You can come with me or not, because she'd been fighting me with it for about 6 years at this point. And so she finally, caved in. We sold everything. I bought a foreclosure up here on, for a steal. We sold everything. We moved up here. I semi-retired and began writing books. And literally, that was it. I thought I was done. Then I stumbled onto Web3, like I said, 4 or 5 months ago, right before everything sold off. It was literally 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I got it. And Bitcoin went from 60,000, 50,000 down to 20,000 in a matter of just a couple of weeks. And I looked at it and I went, am I the kiss of death? But then I decided by the time I learn what I am doing, just like the other markets bounce back, just like everything else bounced back, by the time I learn what I'm doing, this will have bounced back as well. And I'll finally be in the position to know what I'm doing and have done it. This taught me that I'm finally in a spot where I don't have to work just to keep the lights on, and I can afford to stick with it. And sometimes being able to stick with it and ride out the rough patches makes all the difference. And the secret to being able to stick with it and ride out the rough patches is having that security that you don't have to perform just to keep the lights on. It took me, I'm 50 now. It took me almost 50 years to build that up to where I'm able to do that. So if anybody out there is young, live way below your means. Do whatever you can not to be in a spot where you have to strive just to keep the lights on, because it will let you ride out the rough times and be in the right position when the times turn back around. That's all I can say. I think that's been the biggest thing for me.
Okay, thanks, Vlad. Very interesting. Who would like to go next?
I'll go. Yeah, so I think one a significant, meaningful decision that I made 2 years ago was to start dancing. I've always kind of been interested in it, and in the back of my mind, thought it looked really fun and looked really cool. And I'm super happy that I made the step to start taking dance classes, because it's helped me learn how to connect with people in so many more new and exciting and different ways, other than just like intellectual ways and talking about like what I do for work. Instead, like you can connect with people just through like eye contact or movement or smiling, and that's helping you kind of get a better understanding of kind of how people operate, what people want, how the world works. It's not all logical. Emotion plays a very big role into it, and I've made a lot of friends and had this very meaningful conversation with these friends that I met through dancing, and I probably wouldn't have it in my traditional work form. Except, yeah, starting to dance had a significant impact.
Cool. Thanks, CryptoZac. Okay, anybody who would like to go next?
I can go real quick. I'll make it quick. When I was 17, this is the most kind of meaningful experience I've had in my life, who taught me who I was I had lost my uncle to suicide, and it kind of wrecked my entire family. And seeing them go through depression and addiction and all these things as a result of that, I had to really step up and kind of, pick up the pieces, if you will. And it showed a lot that, you can, it, if you become an active participant in making things better for the people around you, you can really make a difference in their life trajectories. And I think that is like one of the most meaningful experiences I've had that has shaped who I am today. And it's one of those things that I look back on with, as kind of like almost like a thank you, because it's a huge loss, but it's made a lot of things better for me and my family in general. So, yeah, just one of those things. I'll pass it on.
Wow. Wow. Thank you for sharing that, man. Okay. Who would like to go next?
I guess I can go next. I think for me, it's been a theme that's just been consistent throughout my life, but it's been sort of a similar theme. So, I was born in India, but I moved when I was about 7 years old to Canada after my dad passed away. My mom had some family in Canada. And yeah, kind of like at a very young age, had to figure out how to essentially adapt to a whole new environment, culture, and all that. But then also like just being in Canada, moved around a couple of times. And then I think I just kind of got the hang of it and really enjoyed kind of owning it too. So more recently, about 2 years ago, I've just started like living in different places as I work remotely, and I've kind of stayed in Mexico now, Morocco, Thailand, a little bit in Portugal as well, and going to try out Nepal later this year. So I think for me, um, it's been like the lesson here has been be adaptable to change and kind of go with the flow as well.
Cool. Thank you. Thanks for sharing that. Um, who would like to go next? We've got Bear, NT, and Kojak.
I can go next. Okay, well, the one of the latest more meaningful moments I had was probably about 2 or 3 years ago. Um, I have a cousin who has Down syndrome, and she got leukemia. We are really close, and I don't know, it was pretty rough times for my whole family. I shaved my head for her, and I just sort of focused back on, I guess I could say, the more essential things of life and myself. I learned a lot about her, but also about me and how and what do I want to do with my life, pretty much. And that's it. Back to you.
Thanks, NT. Thanks for sharing. Kojak and Bear, who would like to go?
Yeah, I can go. Um, well, for me, this experience was when I was like I think 15. I was like in Mexico, and it was my first. It was the time that I was gonna move to Canada to study for the first time. So it was also like my first travel by myself. Yeah, I just remember like being, these mixed emotions. I was excited, of course, but also really, really scared. Like I didn't really know English. Um, I was sad of leaving like my family and my country. Yeah, and yeah, it was just like a mix of emotions, and the experience was basically that, on the airport, I took the flight from Mexico City to Toronto. And when I got there, I had like an hour or 2 hours to do the connection for my next flight. And like everything that could go wrong, like went wrong. Like the huge line for the immigration. Then with my English, it was really hard to communicate, and I just remember like. I knew that I couldn't miss my flight. I just didn't know how to tell people that. So I was just like trying to communicate however I could, and yeah, just trying to keep myself calm. Then also like my luggage kind of got lost for some time, so I just I took longer to get it, and when I finally did, the door for the flight was like on the other side of the airport, and the Toronto airport is huge. So I just had to like run, and it was like a pretty intense experience for me. You know, like my first. It was like my welcoming to Canada, but also kind of like a moment for me to realize of what I was able and capable of doing as well. You know, like after doing that, I just realized like, whoa, I went through all of these, and I was actually able uh, to make it work, right? To overcome it. So I was really proud of that, and that kind of like was the beginning of this kind of feeling that I have, that when things can get complicated, like I still try. I go like into like a focus mode, and I really concentrate in what I have to do, and I'm able to handle things well. So that's something I really appreciate now. And I think it kind of like started with that moment there. Yeah, and similar to Risha too. You know, like adapting to a different culture, adapting to changing circumstances constantly. So it was a lot of learning for me. So yeah, I pass it back to you, Gideon.
Cool. Thank you, Bear. Wow, that sounds pretty tough, being so young too. Kojak, are you able to speak right now?
Can you hear me? Yeah, hello. Can you hear me?
You're very faint. Can you get closer to the mic, maybe?
Is it any better now?
Yeah. But we can't hear you right now. Kojak, if you're trying to speak, we can't hear you.
Yeah, I'm sorry then, because I can't do anything about it at the moment.
Okay, now I can hear you.
Okay, okay, let me try because. Okay.
Nope. It seems to. Can anybody else hear Kojak?
No, I can't hear you, Kojak.
He's going in and out. It's like he's
maybe some other time.
permanent. Then
Because
he's,
I'm speaking off my mobile and it's 10:30 at night. Maybe it's almost 11 o'clock at night out here. And it's,
Yeah, it's I'll tell you what, it's just not coming through. So I mean, it's very spotty. We hear you and then it kind of goes away. So we're gonna how about this? We'll do the updates and then I'll check back with you after the updates and see if your audio has stabilized at that point. Okay. Gene, welcome. Wow, I don't want to put you right on the spot, but we are just wrapping up a check-in process. And the question is, the prompt is, tell us about an experience that was meaningful and help form your understanding of who you are. And so if you're up for answering that, that would be great. If you'd like me to check back after we do the updates in just like a couple minutes, we can do that too.
Yeah, check back. I'm still not sure who I am, so check back in a few minutes. We'll see if I can figure that out.
Okay, no pressure. Okay, so let's do this. We'll do the quick updates and then we'll do the Treasury policy. Maybe Nate can do that. We'll come back, check back with Gene and Kojak, hopefully. And then we'll go on to the last phase of this. So updates, just a reminder, I'm going to be out Monday and Tuesday, completely out. We're heading out on a road trip tomorrow morning early. What I've done is I've tried to just clear my schedule of all kind of recurring meetings aside from the Sampo meeting, so that I can be free in the mornings from like 7 o'clock to about 10:30 Pacific time, Pacific Standard Time. So that's going to be from August 24th to September 8th. So I will be available. I'll be online, but my focus is really to just kind of keep projects moving forward. The token gate is live and it has its first posts thanks to Risha. Risha, thank you for your work. It was not easy, actually. There was like a few hiccups with some of the data and stuff like that, and Risha just kept on plowing ahead and wrestled it down, and it looks great, and it's just so cool. Like we now we have a token gate up and running in the TEC, and this is like really just a test right now, so that we can figure out how to use token gates, see how they fit culturally with the commons in our community. But while we're doing it, we're also trying to like create some value so that it's actually obvious to token holders what this is. So Risha's done a great job. If you haven't checked it out, please do check it out, test out whether it works for you. Assuming you have a TEC token, just all you need is just one, and it'll prompt you to validate that, and then you'll get access to this new channel that's called the Token Holder Updates, and you'll see that. So that's pretty cool. Any questions or Risha, any comments from you on that?
Nope, I think you summarized it pretty well. But I guess an open question to the group is if you guys have any feedback on how we can better present the content and make it more, I guess, like engaging for the people who are actually in the channel, just definitely send that feedback along to me or Gideon. Thanks.
Cool. Thank you. All right. Well, hey, Nate, are you ready to give us an update on what's going on with the Treasury?
Yeah. So, as you all know, the Treasury policy has passed through Snapshot. We are going to start moving into our first phase, which includes the articulation of our first investment strategy, which I am still working on right now. I hope to get the kind of finalized document either tonight or tomorrow morning, and I will post that in the Sampo thread channel. So if you guys, I would like to have your feedback for next week. Once I get your feedback, it will go up to the forum where it will get community advice process, and then that will hit the Snapshot as well. If that is successful, we will go through our first proposal. And with that being said, I want to kind of go over some of the key elements within what I'm working on right now. So within the first investment strategy, this is our first attempt at taking the funds from the laser tag wallet. So this is a part of our first proposal is the laser tag multi-sig, which was intended to provide handle liquidity and general operations for the TEC. Most of the signatories on that multi-sig wallet were kind of disconnected. I have general consensus that this was the wrong route to take when we first initialized this wallet, and so we are going to propose that they transfer ownership of all of the tokens within that wallet over to the Sampo Working Group and the 12th Room Group in particular. We will need to get people who are willing to be on that multi-sig. I need at least 5 people. So if you're interested, please DM me. If not, we will talk about it in next week's meeting about finding people who are willing to participate in that. With that being said, we have a unique case of TEC funding here. So for this initialization of the Treasury, we have within the laser tag multi-sig around 57,000 TEC tokens, which equates to about $72,000. And this is a good starting amount for us to kind of initialize a Treasury, start to begin to develop the processes that are necessary to operate a Treasury. However, there is a big downside to having these funds in TEC tokens. On one hand, we as an organization, we want to make sure that we own organizational tokens. And so having those TEC tokens is very, very important. In order to use it as investment funds, we would need to liquidate them. And in my opinion, that is a pretty, a non-starter in my opinion, just because the way the ABC works and how difficult it is to actually mint TEC tokens. So I spoke with Kojak this past week, and we talked about a kind of a using it as a collateral for a loan. And right now, I've just started the conversation with some people in the leadership of the Gnosis DAO to actually get a kind of a promise, a buyback promise from Gnosis, to where they would give us the full face value of the 57,000 tokens, and they would hold on to it, and we would promise to buy back those tokens at a later date. That way, we can hold on to the TEC tokens, not worry about having to liquidate it through the bonding curve, and potentially initialize some type of sell-off or fear that we'd have a crash in price. And so that is the first big obstacle that we're trying to navigate. And so figuring out how to make those TEC tokens liquid without actually getting rid of them. And so the loan buyback option is something that we're very much exploring. But once we have that taken care of, we want to go into our first investment strategy, which is going to be broken down according to our Treasury policy into three different broad investment categories: lending and borrowing, liquidity provision, and tokenized derivatives. And so we will be using a wide range of protocols per our diversity and a wide range of assets. And so the first category is going to be our lending and borrowing. And so we'll have a supplied lending through the compound protocol of our stablecoins, which will break up between DAI, USDC, and USDT. And then we will have a supplied lending on the Aave protocol with the Convex token. The liquidity provision aspects of it will use Balancer protocol using the staked ETH Balancer pool and the Balancer ETH pool, which will give us VBAL that will allow us to enhance the staking incentives and rewards from those. And then the tokenized derivatives will use Index Co-op's IC ETH as a method of leveraged tokenized derivative. And so each of these three categories are categories that we want to really develop on how to manage these assets within our treasury policy and within our treasury. And so the idea is that once we start getting yield and reward from these categories, we want to start using that yield to actually expand on these categories and enter into new ones. And so any of the proceeds that we do have, we want to slowly start to grow. And the idea here is just kind of, this is a proof of concept. This is something that we're going to do. We're going to have projections on exactly how much money we can generate through our treasury management. And then we're going to present that to community to actually set up our second phase of our treasury policy document and our roadmap, and ask for a much larger sum from the common pool. And so once we have proven ourselves in terms of how we manage these funds and how we move forward, then we will announce our second one. And this comes to the last part of this initial investment strategy, and that is the processes of how we manage it. And after looking around the landscape of how treasury managers have been doing this, the best way to do this in a decentralized way is to break it up into three distinct teams. And this is something I would like to have specifically everybody's feedback on as I continue to develop this. But the idea is we'd have a research team that researches the different investment opportunities, what can be done, and kind of goes through the analysis of how much are we getting from it, when do we make changes, when do we adapt. And then we have an execution team who actually pulls the trigger on making these moves. So the execution team will be the agents and monitors that are assigned to change our investment strategies, to pull things out when things go wrong. And then we have a reporting team, people who are responsible for developing reports and transparency and allowing them to be conveyed to the community for feedback. And so those three teams are kind of the bread and butter of like how we organize ourselves to manage this investment strategy. And so outside of that, that is what I have so far for our first investment strategy. I will be wanting to seek feedback in many forms. So I will try to get this document up tonight or tomorrow morning. And if you have the time this weekend or early next week, I would really appreciate your comments and feedback on it so we can get it up on the forum. But if you have any questions, please do ask, and I'll pass it back to you, Gideon.
Can I ask a rookie question real quick?
Please.
What is the utility of the TEC token? Just because I don't know. Is there any utility associated with it?
That is something that this working group is focused on building right now. And so right now it's going to be focused on a bunch of aggregated small versions of utility. So like, for example, the token gated channel that we have, that's one utility. We plan on integrating the token within the TE Academy in some way. And there are a bunch of future use cases that we're trying to develop here. And so,
I
yeah.
asked the question. You're talking about buying it back, offering it out, buying it back. Would it be possible to take the amount of TEC tokens you have, put them in a pool that you were looking to sell and then buy back, wrap that pool in write tokens off of that pool that auto expire? So you give that so that the people that buy those tokens get to exercise all the utility of the tokens in the main pool, but for a limited time. So they'll buy them at a discounted rate because they'll auto expire. They know they're only buying them for a set period of time, essentially renting the tokens. When they auto expire, then that frees up the tokens that are in your pool. You never actually had to sell them.
Yeah, I think that, with the demand for the utility is the issue in that scenario, and the technical development for that type of pool. Sorry?
It is. That's why I asked about it.
Yeah. So the only reason that people would actually try to buy it is for governance reasons, and in order to pass it. And so,
Buying voting
who
rights.
has control of those tokens? Sorry?
You're basically buying voting rights at that point. And I mean,
Yeah.
again, I don't know whether that's valuable enough to justify it, to get enough money for what you're wanting to raise money for. Again,
No.
I told you it was a rookie question,
Yeah.
but I said I would say that. I said I would speak up and then shut up. I'll let you guys decide whether it's an idea worth pursuing or not.
Yeah, no, it's not a bad idea at all. I think that's really important. I think the big question there is who has those governance rights, and the benefit of having somebody like the Gnosis DAO is we know that they're value aligned. We know that if they have 57,000 tokens, TEC tokens, that they're going to use it responsibly because they're aligned with the ecosystem, because we are a big participant in that ecosystem. And so if we were to put it in a contract or a pool that allows anybody to purchase those or rent them for a moment, they could really use that to take advantage of our common pool for whatever reasons they chose. And that's not something that we can really risk. And so who has control of those governance rights is very, very important in making sure that they're value aligned and they understand what we're trying to accomplish here at the TEC. So I think that that's the biggest risk is not knowing who would have those governance rights.
Okay. One more thing, and then I'll shut up again. What about a separate token just to raise some funds that does have some utility, that is purely a fundraiser token that expires in a certain period of time, that is just designed to raise you some extra capital for you to be able to invest in, that allows it to have it, again, purely an idea as a fundraiser. Or maybe it doesn't expire. Maybe you set up something that you do just for revenue generation. Again, I'll shut up now. I told you.
No, it's all good.
An idea, and then I'll get out of your hair.
No, it's all good. An additional token is something that has been pondered for quite a long time now. It's just something that needs a lot of management, and we really just need a good excuse to have it, but we really haven't justified a good excuse for it. What we want to try to do is make this TEC token work for us, and the unique economic system that we have built through the ABC is something that we want to make work. This is kind of the hypothesis of our entire economic model. And so going to a different token is just kind of abandoning that model, and we want to stick with this and make sure that we can create a token economic model that is able to produce funds to fund public goods. And so if you get an opportunity, I'll send you our Gitbook page that it kind of explains how our token economic model works. It's kind of unique in a lot of ways. And so, yeah, it'll give you some background and context for it.
Okay. Thank you, Nate. Thanks for walking us through that. Yeah, it's I hadn't really thought about the 57,000 and the voting rights that come with that and how important that is. That's a super important point. And because with 57,000 TEC, you could actually pass some stuff, like not huge proposals, but you could probably pass some proposals, small ones. So, okay. And then one other thing, Nate, before we go on, I think particularly with this proposal, it would be really good for us to do some outreach to get some eyes on this that maybe are not normally in our forum. Maybe some of the original hatchers. I don't know. That would be worth just brainstorming a little bit about like how to do that so that we're getting like some really good advice on this.
Yeah, this is something that I think would be a really good topic for the potentially newly formed advisory council for the TEC. And so I think that's something that we should definitely do, maybe as a first step to organizing them. But I agree, because these are very difficult decisions to make. But from first look, I think just outright liquidating these tokens is the wrong move, and I don't want to do something that's going to hurt us in the end, because I would like to use these tokens later on for governance swaps and things of that nature that we can do with partnership organizations. But if we get rid of them, then we virtually have a very limited amount of TEC tokens under our control.
Yeah, very smart. Okay. Well, all right, let me circle back. First, Kojak, is your audio, do you want to give it another shot? Not hearing you. Okay, I'm sorry, Kojak. I'm sorry that's not working for you today. Gene, do you want to give it a shot? Do you want me to repeat the question, or do you have it?
I think I see it as an experience that was meaningful and help you understand who you are. So I spent a few years ago a little bit of time in incarceration, and that was a trying experience. It's very difficult to be in a position like that and not find it meaningful and not find it a little bit elucidating as to who you are and how you got there. And yeah, I spent over a year thinking about it, and I think it helped me to see some of my own character defects and kind of map a chart to improving that and accomplishing something that's worthwhile and meaningful in life. And the TEC is part of that mission for me. So thanks for letting me participate.
Cool. Thank you. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah. Wow. All right. I'm trying to think right now. We have just like 10 minutes. It ended up taking a little bit longer to go through the stories than I thought it might, but actually I'm glad we did. I think I'm going to take this next section and just bump it to next week. The reason that I was focusing on meaning in this is because that's one of the things I want to talk about with you all next week is just this work that we're about to enter into. None of us are going to get rich doing this work as far as I can see. This is not the reason why we're all here, right? Is to make a ton of money off of this. But I wanted to spend a little bit of time just talking about what gives us meaning. I think we're about to set out on a journey here that's pretty exciting. Like you can see the contours of it starting to form. But rather than diving into the details of that, let's hold off on that for right now. We can talk about it next week. Maybe what I'll do before just closing a little bit early is just give a quick update on this curation service that we're working on. This thing is actually getting pretty, it's getting pretty exciting. The quick update is that we're working with DAO Stack and Tangible AI on this. They have kind of a rough spec of what this is going to do. We're setting up, basically the way this is going to work is Risha is going to take the lead in terms of like driving the ongoing project management for this. The curated content is going to do a number of different things. We'll use it in a variety of ways, and we've talked about some of that in some of these calls. The primary one we're interested in is working with the comms team, and for our communications. So basically, using the content that's being curated by the community to basically add a new channel to the TEC token holders category on Discord. So that goes to this question of token utility, trying to just boost that up. So basically be kind of like greatest hits for the community in terms of curated content around token engineering. And then the thing I'm most excited about is getting like some really good content to rise up that we can use in our tweets, right, for TEC Twitter. That is so Irem is kind of taking the lead, working with Acid Laser on that aspect, and then the other part that Irem is working with is then because she's doing work in Communitas, is then working with the various working groups to help them use this curation tool so that they can start to curate knowledge within their specific working group. The most obvious example of that is going to be Consilience Library and the Omega working group. They're pretty excited about this. So Irem would be working on that front too. One of the questions one of the opportunities that's come up is, looking at like, well, could we bring in some new folks? How might we use this tool as a way to start to attract people around like a special interest, like an interest group, right? And so NT and I just are starting to talk about this, like exploring like what might that be. And I think that in the next couple weeks, certainly by the time I get back in early September, I would really like to dedicate one of our calls to this exploration. Basically, I think we have an opportunity to start picking some areas where the TEC can really add some value. And so I'll give you maybe two examples of this right now that Antti and I were talking about the other day. The first one is token engineering safety. So what might the TEC be able to do by getting some of the leaders together in a channel on our Discord to talk about token engineering safety? I mean, this is such a huge issue. This is, it's one of the reasons that the various governments around the world are starting to look at crypto with an eye to like starting to regulate it. It's hurting people when these systems go down, when they're badly designed. So thinking a little bit about how we might actually help people from different organizations, different companies, and different startups, different DAOs come together like a shared working space to collaborate on that. And what that might end up looking like in terms of what the product is that they would generate through that coordination, not sure, but that would be kind of up to them. So the idea would be that we would be creating a space for them to come together. It really would be a Schelling point, like a way for people to come together around these questions of token engineering systems and making them secure, making them safe. A second example of that would be, not sure what the best way to describe this is, but I don't know about you all, but whenever I try to describe token engineering to people, I get a lot of like, what? What are you talking about? This is, this is still, even within Web3, I think the phrase token engineering is still something. I mean, even within the TC, I think that you would get, if you were to ask 10 different people to define token engineering, you might get like 8 different responses. So setting up a place where people could, where we get some leaders together, almost like a PR or like marketing interest group, to focus on how we start to tell this story to the next wave of people. That is, specifically, I'm not talking about DAOs, I'm talking about token engineering in specific, because that's going to be another big hurdle for us as a sector, but also for the TEC, like being able to get really good, clear messaging and clear communications about what that is. So those are more, I'm not saying those specifically, but more to kind of give an illustration. Let me just stop there. I'll pause and see if anybody has any comments or thoughts about that. Okay. Well, like I said, we will come back to this, and we will be kind of flushing that out a little bit, and probably having like a more formal conversation around that. So let's do this. It's 3 minutes till, so we've got 3 minutes, and we'll just end 3 minutes early. All right, everybody. Thank you for sharing all your stories today. I really appreciate it, and have a good rest of your day.
Thanks, Gideon. And I hope you have a good trip.
Thanks, Nate. All right.
Thanks,
Bye,
everyone.
everybody.
Thanks, Gideon.
Bye. Take care.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.